just doing a recap of how this all came about. I was playing on my iPad and I talked to it very nicely and asked it to design me an orange elephant, and I put in a few descriptive words and up came a number of patterns, and then I shared them, and then people said, oh, that's cute. So the idea formulated that I would do a drawing from that pattern, and then people could do the quilt, and I would share how I did the quilt. So there's several things in here. There's different ways of doing the applique flowers, and basically how I do applique. I mean, I do applique a lot, mainly raw edge applique, but this time I decided to do it as a sketch. I wanted it to be quite free. It might look a bit rough to you, but I just outlined the elephant in black so it stands out on the background, because the background is quite bright. So my forte is very different to doing the elephant in a way. I guess my speciality as a quilter, as a textile artist, is to do portraits, and so I'll share a little, a few of those, but this is just one of those play things I do in the studio. It's just a little whimsy, and I hope you enjoy it. Now, I mentioned to you that I love doing portraits, and so I have a number of portraits of people that I've done over the years. Just finished a big one of an Indian man, and I'll share that with you. But that's done very differently to this. This is just whimsical, easy peasy stuff. That one is done as a, I can move that down so you can see that. That one was thread painted with a sewing machine. I must admit, this is terrible paper, but it was the biggest paper I had, and I've nearly run out. I gave it to the grandies to draw on, and it was, I'm sorry, but it was a bit pretty cheap paper. But nevertheless, it has the desired effect. And I actually don't know if elephants have eyebrows, but mine's going to. See, little lines like this one here, they give expression, and I've added a little bit of lip here. Now, I haven't done tusks, but I think tusks would look good, so I'm going to add them a little bit differently. Not quite sure what this little bit was, but it was on the drawing, so I left it on. So I actually use pencil sometimes before I do the drawing. This is a black 0.5 pigment ink pen. I need another little bit. I'll just have a little bit come there. I think this would be very cute decoration. It was actually on the picture, so I'm adding it. Now, the fabric I'm going to use for this is Indian fabric, and it's called rubia, or there's a few other words for it. Sooty fabric, and I love it. So there it is. It's done. Pretty much done. Let me take that. There we go. And now I'll do all the fiddly bits. So this is the elephant, and it's back to front, as you can see. But this is on the fusible web, and you can see, you may be able to see some, let me put this down here. You can see those lines. That's the side that you actually trace on, because there's tracing paper either side. You don't really want to trace on that side. You want to trace on this side. And so here's the little elephant here. Well, it's not quite so little, really. So I've cut out the fusible web piece with about 1/4 of an inch all the way around, and now I'm going to put it onto the orange fabric, and then I'll iron it down and then cut it out. So turn him over and peel. I think you can see this. Oh, it's not that easy. Peeling the back tracing paper off. You can see the drawing on the front. See here. And I'm going to peel that all off. That's sticky, tacky here. All the way off. I pressed the fabric first. Now, normally you could have a back and a front, you know, like you've got back and front of this one. You would put it on the back of the fabric, but this piece of orange is the same all the way through. It's well saturated. It's cherry wood fabric, so which I love to use. And so I'm just going to place that on here and press it down so that it's nice and flat. Then I'll take it to the ironing board and iron it. And that's going to melt the glue onto the back of this piece. So once the piece has been ironed down, I then turn it over and cut on the line, the pencil line, and then lay it down onto the backing and iron it down again. So I'm going to demonstrate how I do the drawing on fabric, and I do it a lot. Pattern is the right way up on the light box. I'm just going to do one flower and a leaf because I've already done it before. Now I use a uni pen. This is my favourite pen. Sometimes you can use a Zig pen, that's about the same. The reason I use this as a pigment ink pen is that it has a rounded edge. Remember, we used the micron pens for a long, long time, but the micron pens have a square edge, and it's very hard to draw on the waft and the weft, and you'll find that it drags a little. Whereas this is a draftsman's pen, it's pigment ink, and I use 0.5, and it just won't fade, or it's waterproof. And I just draw. As a matter of fact, I do all my pen drawings with this. I'm using a fabric called Japara. It's the fabric that they use to cover feather quilts. You could buy it possibly from there for those companies. For Australians, I buy it at Spotlight. This is not actually white. I've run out of white, so this is just a little off-white. And you can see that I can draw on this just as well as I draw on paper. And it's not bleeding because we have the rounded edge on the brush. Oh, whoopsie. Oh, well, that doesn't matter. If you go over there, it doesn't make any difference. This is your drawing. And it's very smooth, really smooth. I have the light box out further than I normally would have it in, so that I can film on it. It's a bit hard to see exactly. Never mind. It doesn't matter if it's a bit different. It's my drawing. So it doesn't make any difference at all. I call this Applique, and I've been doing it for such a long time, drawing an applique. Sometimes I do entire quilts with this form of illustrating my own applique. Excuse my dog barking. One of them went walkabout yesterday, scared the daylights out of me. They're only little and, you know, they can get run over. They're not street smart. Okay, so this is a bit rough, but it doesn't matter. As I said, I'm drawing under difficult circumstances here because I have to fit it under the camera. Normally I have it closer to me. I wanted the leaf to look dimensional, and it isn't, to be really honest, it isn't the way I would draw a leaf normally. I think the good thing is about, you know, when you're doing something with AI, it takes you out of your comfort zone, and it gives you different opportunities to do different designs. I would, if I was actually drawing this leaf for myself, I would do it very, very differently. But I quite like it, really. There we go. Do the little dots on here. Takes about 5 minutes to dry, or you could just go and pop it under the iron. Now, once this is on here, it is permanent, folks. Absolutely permanent. I've done some very, very detailed ones in this style. I'm going to turn that off now. Oh, it was bright. Oh, here we are. Missed a little bit. To be really honest, because I can see through this fabric pretty well, I don't really need the light box, but you can freehand these if you want to. And I have some little tricks. Let's do these little bits here. I think I've probably been doing applique for about 30 years. I originally didn't know about pigment ink. Now, there's several brands of pigment ink. So you probably have seen these pens, and these are Fabrico by Succhineco. It's an acid-free Fabrico jewel marker. This is Wisteria, and on one end it has a brush, and on the other end it has a point. You get lots of colours. I think there's about 96 colours. However, because I do a lot of fine stuff, I like to use these Faber-Castell. They're Pitt artist pens. They don't last as long as the Fabrico because, you know, they've got less ink in them. And this is exactly the same, and this is a brush, but you can see it's a finer brush. So the fine details, I will put in that. There's 100 colours. I have a box of 100, which I just love. Now, I'm not pressing hard, and you can see I don't let the ink or the pen sit on the fabric. You need a tight weave fabric. I mean, the only other one I can suggest is possibly a batik. You know, so that's the consistency I like. Don't use homespun because it'll bleed. That'll do me. Oh, whoops, here we've got another little bit here. Rough, rough, rough. I've taken the light box away, and I now have a cutting mat. And this is just a cutting mat that I don't use for cutting. Well, this side of it I don't use for cutting, simply because this can stick on there a little bit and it doesn't move too much when I'm colouring it. So I'm going to use the Fabrico pen and colour it. Or maybe I should have ironed it first. I think it's dry. Yeah, it's not bleeding in. So if you use two colours against one another, if it's not dry, it will bleed a little bit. So generally I iron it, folks. Now I like to fill it with colour. I fill it completely with colour so that it doesn't look like a drawing. This is going to look like a piece of fabric. You're actually making your own fabric. You're creating your own fabric. Now, when it's drying, it will dry about 3 or 4 shades lighter. So you just have to be aware of that, that's all. And trust me, guys, if you get this on your clothes, it's there forever. And I've got it in some very interesting places. So I just make another picture out of it on my blouse. As I said, this one is the Fabrico pen, and because I can cover it quickly, just colouring in, and you can see now how strong that colour is. Learn to colour in the lines. So I darkened the purple a little. It's come out a little bit too dark, but this is not going on the quilt, so it doesn't really matter. Now I'm going to use this Fabrico, can you see how I'm holding the brush? So I'm holding it so that this whole area is going across, and I just flick. And you can see how I'm going outside. I get a lovely even coverage. I'm going to have to turn this around. I had to put another pink in there because I ran out of the nice pink I had. It's a bit lolly, to be honest. A little bit lolly, but I fix it with black ink in a minute. Now, I'm not colouring it in like that. If I hold the pen up like this, I'm only going to get a sharp point. What I want to do is hold it like this and get that effect. That makes sense to you? If I hold it like this, I'm going to get this. If I hold it like that, I'm going to cover it. And I'm going to show you some different samples in a wee while. I don't know why I didn't film the original one. That's a bit dilly, isn't it, really? Actually, yes, I do know. I didn't have the camera stand that I wanted to use. So you see how I'm going outside the edge? Doesn't make any difference. Gives me a nicer effect when I'm cutting it out, if that makes sense to you. Laying the brush down and, yeah. Often I will shade it. I didn't shade it much on this one because I'm going to shade with black pen. Turn it around a little bit, then you can see it. There we go. I really don't like this pink. It's a bit lolly, isn't it? I wonder what it'd look like if I put orange over the top. I think it won't look better. Shall I try? Yeah, look at that. I like that better. Much better. It's lots of fun drawing with this, honestly. It's very relaxing. It's like being in kindy. So I'm just filling in, getting rid of that pink, 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 orange, pink. Now it's orange, pink. Pen on the side. I don't want it to look like a colouring in. I want it to look solid. There's so many varieties I can do with this. Whoopsie, I nearly went over the turquoise. So many ways I can use this, and it depends too, because this is pigment ink and it's opaque. And really what it's doing is dyeing the fabric. It's not sitting on the surface. Look, it's coming all the way through. So it's dyeing the fabric. It's not too shabby. Applique, it's called, folks. Few people have tried to copy that. One lady told me it was a Spanish word. What a lot of rubbish. It's a Holland word. Drawing and applique. It was the only way I could share what it was like. Really? What it was. There we go. Looks a bit messy, doesn't it? Now I'll do a leaf and show you what that looks like. I've got, as I said, I can mix the pens. I'm starting in the center and going out. And theoretically, I would make it darker in the center. I could do it this way. Let me show you. I could do this, darker in the center. It's a little bit like watercolor, honestly, because I'm blending as I go. I'm making sure that there's no strong edges. Can you see that? No strong edges here. Blending, blending, blending. So it's dark in the middle because I've gone over the colour a lot. And softer on the edges. Then come back to the outside and do dark, just dark in, leaving a little light bit there. Can you see? Just a fraction. Sukaneko, Fabrico by Sukaneko is this pen that I'm using. Get them from a lot of quilt shops. You can buy them online in packs. I think there are 90 something colours. And over the years, folks, I've had them all. Used to buy them by the 100, each colour by the 100 for my classes. And you will do the stem the same way. So that's given me a little variety here. Now, I can put darker over light, but I can't put light over dark because they're opaque. I've got a darker one here, I think. Here we are. So this is a darker one, pine, it's called pine. And so I could put that in here just a little bit. Blending it in just a little bit like that. So that's the basics of how you colour in. But when we look at this one, now what have I done to make it different? What I have done is with my trusty black pen, I have done some dots all the way around the edge. Just little dots. So I left this bit to show you. I drew like a little outline, and then there's dots here. Just graduating out just a little bit. It gives it a sketched and antique-y sort of feel. And I do it around pretty much every edge. Haven't done it on this one yet. So I'm making my own fabric. See the difference it makes? Look at the difference it makes here. Yeah. Around here, down the bottom. And of course, because I've stitched it in black, the original quilt, then you can see that the black blends in with these little dots, and it diffuses the edge. Now this is one of my fairies that I drew to go into a quilt. It's completely drawn with those pens, starting with a black pen, then colouring. Remember how I showed you to layer the pen flat? And it's such fun. So this little lady is completely drawn. You can see how it's all come through the back. So it is dyed. It's dyed. Now, same techniques. However, this is an applique one, and I've used applique fabric, but I've drawn on the applique fabric as well. So this little bit is drawn. So it's enhancing my applique. Whoopsie, little Duvalak here. I've shaded all the edges. I've drawn the black lines on with pen. I've shaded these, so you can see how it's shaded around the outside so that it's lighter in the middle, so that it now looks like this is rolled. Can you see here on her hat? So this is all applique with some draplique, because I'm not going to be able to find a piece of fabric that'll do that. So that's drawn and applique down. Her feet are drawn and applique down. Yeah, that's pretty much all that's drawn. But I always illustrate my applique in that way. Illustrate with quilting, illustrate with the pen. So this is a block of the month, so you're getting a little preview. This is something I drew every time I went to the hairdresser. I would draw a big line of these drawings on the iPad, and now I've done exactly the same as I've done with the elephant. I had it printed out to the size that I wanted, and then I drew the pattern. So this one's ready for me now to colour. And I'll just fold it up a little bit. It's in long lines. I love doing this. This is my... So this is what it looks like. This is what the block of the month's going to look like, and everyone will be able to do sections, and we're doing embroidery and all sorts of things. So this is exactly as I've shown you. Exactly. And you can see the colours are bright. Have I ironed it down? I don't know if I have. No, it's not even ironed down. So I would come out into the studio. I'd probably do this much drawing in the morning, and then put fusible on the back and applique it down. So you can see how I've added the black pen, 0.5 black pen around the edge. Looks like a drawing, doesn't it? These little pieces will all be appliqued down. This is all going to be appliqued down with a with monofilament I think, have I done this one? Yeah, this one's already applique down. So you can't even see my applique. So I'm using, or I guess you can here, I'm using monofilament, and it's more than fun. It's more than, sometimes I think it's not even legal. It's so much fun. So that's Draplique, and there's a few samples of how I do it, and I've done an entire book. So this is a little drawing, whoopsie. And I give this out in my class. Sometimes when people buy my books, I send it to them as a thank you gift, and then I've had it printed at Spoonflower. And here's another one. This is the fish house. This is lots of fun because I have already drawn the quilting, slow quilting lines on there. So it's fun. So this one's on white fabric. This one's on fabric that I designed at the back to look like note paper. However, this is my book. And let me see. Yeah, this is my book. The Adventures of the Amazing Alphabet. How did this come about? As a fluke, really. So I travel a lot, and as I travel, I used to write to my grandchildren. Here I've got 4 years ago, sitting on a plane during a layover, I found I was the only person left on the plane. I had to wait. You know, everybody got off, and I had to wait. I could have got off and stretched my legs, but my hand luggage full of cameras is always heavy, and I opted to stay put. I had 40 minutes until we took off again on the next leg of the trip. I pulled out the iPad and my sketchbook out of my bag, and I settled down to do a little drawing. I'm in a world of my own, and this is what I drew. And this was T for Tilly. My sketchbook is my playground, and I have a vivid imagination. So I was writing a story to Tilly, my granddaughter, and I told her that I was sitting next to a little person on the plane, and he had stripy legs, and he had a blue sweater, but he didn't have a head, and he was a T. And this is the book. So, of course, then people wanted to know the story, and I had to do all the story. This is the village. This is the village that the alphabet lives in, and it's a long story of how the alphabet lost its heads, and it's a mystery story. There's lots of interesting things for adults in there. Children don't understand, so here we go. Here we are. So this is done the same way, exactly the same way that I've shown you. So in the book I have the A for attitude. She sure does have attitude, doesn't she? And then this is drawn on cream fabric. So these pictures are just taken from my drawings. There's a whole alphabet in here. This is my favourite, the juggler. And this is the story at the front. This is in lots of children's libraries. It's lots of fun. And yeah, I have this book. It is on my shop on the webpage. So now I'm going to do the applique flower. This is the original drawing, and I have already done one where I put it on white fabric and drew it, coloured it actually on the white fabric. But now we're going to do an applique one. So I've broken down the pieces like this. Lots of seam allowance and things like that, and I'll explain that all to you. And then this is going to be the leaves. So I'm going to create the pattern pieces, and I've broken down all the pieces into individual pieces. So we need to draw them that way on the fusible web. However, you need to turn it over so that we have it backwards. Then I turn on the light box, and I'm going to trace the pattern onto the fusible web. And the fusible web at times is a little confusing. Generally, you draw on the part that has the yellow grid here. However, it's a good idea just to check, because sometimes the glue that's on this side sometimes goes over to this side. It's just like a sheet of glue that sticks on there. I can't pull it off at the moment. So double check first. Here we go. You know, I did this twice simply because I made a mistake. Would you think I would make a mistake after all these years of doing applique? Let me pull this down a bit here, then we can see it. I can see it a little bit better. I've just had to shoo the doggies out of the studio. They were having a play fight. So this is a mechanical pencil, and I prefer to use a mechanical pencil because an ordinary pencil will get blunt very quickly because there's glue in here and it's a little bit bobbly, and so it blunts the pencil. Now go right on the outside edge of the pattern. Look, it doesn't matter if you make a little bit of a mistake, to be honest, because this is your pattern. It's going to fit. And I don't normally do it sitting down, but I am for this process. So I'm going to do all of that on here. And let me explain about these wonderful scissors. These are Friskas. That's what I use for all my applique. And I like them because they've got this big handle, and it has a really sharp edge here. Now, actually, I used to buy these in Spotlight, which is our fabric store, a little bit like Joann's in the States. However, now I have to go to the florist department in in our big, what do we call it? It's Bunnings in Australia. In America, it's called Lowe's. So you go to the floristry department and buy them. So you can see now I've just left it with a little bit all the way round. Let me explain that when you iron this, and to iron it, I'm going to have to take, this is the hard bit, sometimes just do a little score here, using my, just to get the back off. Should have done it with a pin. I want to pull the glue off, but we're going to pull off the backing sheet, right? The backing sheet. And then you put it onto your fabric. Now, I love this. I love this one because it's tacky and it will just stick there. And then sometimes when I cut out the appliques like this, you can see I've cut it out on the edge. Now, there's a interesting point, because once you iron it onto here, it often shrinks a little. This fabric doesn't shrink, but sometimes other fabric shrinks. And so I always cut it out with a little bit to spare. Let me see where this bit goes. Here it goes in here. And I've done a little seam allowance under here so that this bit will sit under that bit. There you go. You can see it now. And I'm going to finish the rest of this. Now, on this piece here, let me see. On this piece here, I actually had extra little pieces in here, and they were really fiddly to cut out. I've done this about 3 times. They were really fiddly to cut out, so I'm actually going to colour these with pen. And there's several types of pen that you can use. This one is Fabrico, Sukaneko by Fabrico, and it has a point one end, a brush, and another point the other end. And it's pigment ink, and it will colour. This one's nearly finished, actually. It's almost working okay. It shouldn't bleed if you're careful. And if you don't put too much on, it shouldn't bleed. So I'm just going to colour those. So I'm actually making my own fabric exactly the same way as I made the entire flower the other way. So there we go. Now I've done all the colouring. I can't help myself, but I love to do some shading. So I'm going to hold the brush on the side here, and I'm just going to take the colour. Can you see how softly I'm doing this? Just taking the colour up a little bit, just to add to the softness here. Got to be careful because I've got fabric under here. Just ever so gently. I'm just kissing the fabric. And all this is done on the applique mat. And the glue, once I iron this is not ironed down. It's not ironed down, it's just stuck down. And you can see it won't move because that glue's quite stiff. I do like that better than that. So I'll do the other side. Now I'm looking at the other colours here. So I have two more. I have this one, this colour, and this colour. And yes, these are the sooty fabrics that I'm using. They're absolutely lovely. You can see how they drape, and you can see how, maybe you can see how fine they are. And sooty fabrics come from India. They're called rubia, and it's the same colour all the way back and front. So you don't get that little halo around when you're using a white fabric. So I have two more pieces here to go. And I have done it on the applique. So I've done the darker piece underneath, and now and a lighter bit at the top, and then I'm going to do a lighter, even lighter, on top there, simply because I feel like the light's shining down that way, so the light will be hitting it down. You can see now that this is getting lighter too, because it's not so wet, and it will dry about 4 shades lighter. So we will see the definition. And this is going to be all stitched in black thread. The entire thing will be stitched in black thread, so don't worry that we can't see the outlines here. Well, I'm going to stitch it in black thread. You could do anything you like, really, but I want it to look like a bit of a sketch. So I've taken the tracing paper off this, and off the back of this, and now I'm going to put it down. I find it easier to use tweezers. Once I had, I'm going to lift this little bit up to pop the seam allowance underneath there. And now I will do this one. When I had my hand surgery, I have difficulty with this hand. It was quite major, and was all work related. So you can see I'm pulling that apart now. Pop the tweezers onto there, and then this up so that it goes down like that. There we go. Yeah, that's okay. That's okay. I think it's okay. I think that's okay. And you can see now that this is lightened a little. I just change things as I go, to be honest. Now you're going to say to me, why have you done it on the applique sheet? Other than the fact that, you know, I can get a really good likeness. I mean, I can do it exactly the same as the pattern rather than have to guess it all. But now I can iron it on here. It's not ironed down and it won't move. And I will tell you that I have about 20 of these, and I have huge sheets of them when I did the bayeux, when I was working on the bayeux, so that I could lay stacks of these down so that it was all ready for me to then press and put down onto the applique, put down onto the quilt, I beg your pardon. So it makes makes it so much easier. When I iron this, of course this one will be separate to this one, when I iron it, the glue will remain on the back of the applique because I'm using a Teflon sheet. And originally, I do believe that these were cooking sheets, and I've actually bought some black barbecue ones for, you know, other things. I can't see through them, but I've also bought some silicone ones. But I like these, I think, because they're finer. And I must admit, I've had some of them for, 20 years? So you get good value for them. When you see them out on special, grab a few because they're fantastic. Now I'm going to iron all of this and then I'll put it onto the quilt. Okay, so let's do this bit first. I've got to do this quick because the gardener's going to make noise. And I'm pulling it off. Can you see now? Oh, look, isn't that fantastic? I get so excited. Looks brilliant. Thank you, mister. Let me do this here. I can see just there where it goes. And of course, because the elephant hasn't been stuck down, I can just tuck it under there. Now let's do this bit. Careful, Pamela. Ooh, you don't want to let it stick to each bit. Here we go. Just be careful that it doesn't stick to each other. Oh my goodness, he's making a noise. He's right outside the window. Now I'll put this down so we can see. There you go. I like it. I was worried about what colour to put there. Originally had orange, but nuh-uh. And they're going to match, aren't they? And then we'll just have the other two over here, and another one over here. So that's the quilt top completed, and as you can see, I've added Kaif fabric for the rug and pink for the ears, the tusk, and the blue outlined. And then there's the drawing where my stitch lines would be. So I'm not going to tell you how to applique this. You probably have your own favourite way. And you could do a small zigzag matching the colours. You could do a blanket stitch. But I want it to look like a drawing. I want it to look like something that you would see that has been drawn in a magazine. And I'm going to do the whole thing in black thread. I use Aurifil 50 weight. I have Aurifil on the top and exactly the same black Aurifil in the bobbin. And I'm using a 8012 needle, sharp. I always use a sharp needle. And then I go around the whole thing 4 or 5 times, filling in with the black thread, and it It looks quite nice, I think. It gives it a sketched effect. This is the quilt completed. And I did say I was going to do big cantha stitch, but when I decided on this fabulous fabric for the background, I knew that I was then just going to stitch in the orange and stitch around every circle that's on there so that it looks bobbly when you see the quilt in reality. It's just lovely. It's got lots of texture and a lot of dimension, and I'm quite happy with it. I'm just going to add one more little thing to it in a minute. I think that the fabrics have worked well, and this is a closer shot of the stitching. So when you stitch that way, raw edge stitching, and of course these fabrics are not going to fray, and you can see that it makes it really, really stand out. And I've added a couple of little green parrots that are my favourites, little green parrots in the leaves, and now it's finished.